Hi, welcome to Celebrity Interviews with Paul. I have with me Pastor Vicky Lovell. Vicky is a dear friend of mine. She is a pastor at Zion Lutheran Church in Ann Arbor. She is a Moth Story Slam and Grand Slam winner, which I'm highly covetous of. The second, not the first. And an incredible person all around. Welcome, Vicky, to Celebrity Interviews.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, you have two teenage sons who are huge people who eat a lot and big muscly boys, and you have a teenage daughter, and you have a large dog, and your husband all at home. And I understand Eric is not as happy to not be able to travel and escape the craziness a little bit, and in the midst of all kinds of reconstructions to your home. So how is life in the pandemic?
There's a reason I'm at work. No, it's good. Actually, there's all these little blessings that have sort of come up, right? Mm-hmm. When it first started, I think my boys and my daughter, to some extent, thought this was just like a mini spring break tucked in, and they thought this was crazy fun time. Mm-hmm. And then as it got more and more serious, they really settled in. And I don't know about your kids, but my boys and Addie started to play together a lot. They started to work out all the time. We started doing family cooking challenges. And so they all learned how to, make some good meals, some gourmet. Our family like to eat. So we had we worked out a ton. Our poor dog has been walked to way more than our dog wants to be walked.
Aw.
And so many home projects.
Okay.
So many home projects.
Good. Lots of energy in the household. We seem to have gone through phases. We went through like the Tiger King, do a family activity through the alphabet every night. You got to the end of the alphabet, we all kind of lost steam, Yeah. We had the euchre every night thing. We had, keep going through phases. Now we're in the people have jobs and are working phase, and we're pretty excited about that one because it keeps them from the wanting to go out and see friend phase, which is a challenge in and of itself. So.
Well, today all of our athletics started in our area. So
okay.
They can do social distancing training. So all three high school for many hours. And
good. Okay. Well, obviously with suspended worship since March, and now we're into early June, life as a pastor is different for you. What have you noticed? What's the biggest changes for you?
I guess if I think about it, the biggest change, we've been pretty lucky at Zion. We had live streaming well underway for the last 5 years. We've done drive-in services here since the 70s. So we've had all of the pieces in place. So we got to just kick right into that, which was nice. But I am fortunate. I serve with Pastor Jim Debner. So Jim really loves worship, and he loves organizing things with the IT and working with the music team. And I'm much more the person who does the education, the mission, the outreach. I'm a busybody is what I. And so this
is that an official title?
Yes.
Busybody extraordinaire.
Yes. And the cool part is this pandemic sort of naturally allowed us to go into our own comfortable lanes.
Okay.
So he does a lot more working on the worship bulletins and taking care of it. And I just became a street minister. For the most part, I am 100% into all of the community work that we're doing right now. I miss the pastoral care piece and I'm a hugger. Huggers got to hug. This is tough.
It doesn't happen that much anymore, does it?
Oh, so I have not at all been isolated. I've been 100% out into the mix.
Well, and now you guys have a pretty vibrant homeless ministry for folks in Ann Arbor. What and how does that change, and what's been the focus of that ministry recently?
Well, that ministry has been evolving for. Actually, I'll give you a story. You may not have heard this yet, but I'll share.
Right.
When I first got to Zion 4 years ago, I've had this dream of having a mobile ministry. I wanted a bus. In fact, I even tried to get my internship to be on a bus in Detroit, but that got nixed. But it's okay because God had a bigger plan. So I came here, and during my call process, the call team asked me which book of the Bible I related to. And I said, well, it must be Esther for such a time as this, because I'm not sure what popped at Zion. And it became a joke that I was Esther, right? So fast forward, I've been talking about this mobile ministry, put it on my vision board, put it in a wish list. And one day Jim comes into my office and says, you won't believe this. This person's mother died and they want to buy you a bus. And I thought, are you kidding me? And he said, there's only one caveat. It's got to be named after the mom. And I'm like, what? I'll name it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Esther.
Esther. Perfect.
So it was the Esther bus.
Yeah.
Everybody. And being, I'm not a normal pastor, I don't think. So I couldn't just do a wrap around it. I needed it to be a little bit more vibrant. And so we had this guy who used to be homeless in our community, who's a world-renowned graffiti artist. He graffitied our bus. So now this Esther bus has become known in the Ann Arbor community because when people see it coming, they know that it's going to be.
What happened? Are you talking again? So we were paused because we had technical difficulties and that horrible screeching noise, which I think my ears are still bleeding a little bit and ringing. But Vicky was telling us about the Esther bus that she had covered in graffiti from a local homeless guy, now graffiti artist who's world renowned. So she travels the streets of Ann Arbor in her Esther bus, working with the homeless folks and helping them out. Right? That where we are?
And so basically what it started with us having this van that I would just drive to Liberty Square where several of the people who were experiencing homelessness would hang out. And I would get out of the bus or the van at the time. We didn't have the bus yet. And I'd say, hey, you want to come to my church? And they'd go, no. And week after week, I'd go back. And finally I said, how about if I feed you? And then they started to trust me. And before long, we had this Wednesday ministry called God and Grub. And we bring our friends in, we have lunch together, we worship together, and all these really cool relationships started. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that happened in this pandemic was those relationships just kind of, I guess it just kind of got amplified because the Delana Center is the Shelter Association of Washtenaw County. They know us because of our work, our weekly work. And they called us up, and we host a rotation, which means 1 or 2 weeks a year, the people who are experiencing homelessness come and sleep at Zion. And it's during the cold months.
Right.
Well, while this happened, they asked if we could do a couple of extra weeks. And they didn't want to, when there's a shelter in place, to tell people who are homeless, figure it out. So we were trying to find faith communities. Well, many of the faith communities in the Washtenaw County could not do that because of things like no showers. Councils were panicking, and nobody knew what was. We were all in this situation. So a lot of their normal people said no. So I convinced Zion to do one edition a week, and I promised that we would work hand in hand, and the president of our congregation and myself offered to spend the night here at Zion to help. So we took turns every other night. We would sleep here with the people in the community, and we had 27 guys that stayed here, and then we had all the faith communities that couldn't house people became advocates, and we started to have 14 agencies work together to kind of put heat on the county to say these folks cannot go into the street where there's no place to wash their hands or use the restroom, or like all the places they hung out during the day were closed now, right? Libraries, coffee shops. So we got enough pressure put on them that the county took I think it was going to be a closed down hotel, and they opened it up, and we were able to house about 46 people 47 originally. So my daily job was to go there, and I was bringing a fourth meal to the people, and I was checking in on them and making sure they had all their basic needs. Well, we still had 2 other faith communities, eventually a third faith community that was open, and it wasn't working. You can't socially distance when you're in these communal settings.
Right. So
we kept putting this heat on, kept putting heat. And eventually most everybody moved over to the hotel. So there's now 106 people and not families, just individuals. And we've taken all of these faith communities and we've linked arms, and we have the sign up genius that people come here to Zion and drop off food every day. Then another person comes and picks it up. And it's been this beautiful marriage between community members and faith communities to serve the hungry and to serve the homeless. Right. So I think the best part about it is, it sounds like you're just giving, a bowl of soup or something, but it's really not. These people have gotten to know my face primarily because I'm there every day checking in. But they don't just look at me as, the Santa Claus who's bringing items. They now recognize that we bring something more to the table. So last Sunday I went, I had my collar, and I don't typically wear my clergy clothes, but it was after a service, and I zipped over there, and all these guys were hanging out, and as I pulled in, they kind of like swarmed my car, and I got out. I said, geez, oh Pete, what's going on? And they said, we need a prayer circle. And they just wanted me to gather them in prayer. And so now another one of my friends, his name is Mark, he came to Zion the other day and played this musical piece, and we played it in our service on the live stream. He's a talented musician. And then as I've been sitting here with you, 3 different people have called, and now they're calling, and it's no longer just for like shoes or socks. They're calling because they get the connection that we bring. And so there's this organic faith building that's happening. And I think it's beautiful. Even the shelter employees, when I go there, they often ask me to come into the room and just pray with them.
Wow.
And, they want to know, where are the street guys sleeping tonight? Where are the tent people? And I'm thinking, isn't this your deal? But they know that they'll trust us because we've developed these relationships.
Right.
It's been a beautiful, it's just been this beautiful Holy Spirit driven thing to see the faith community stepping up to really care for our neighbor at this time.
And in a time when they could have just kind of folded the doors on the ministry because it was difficult or in some ways impossible to continue the way it was. That's beautiful.
And to watch these, all these organizations that have come, they kind of operate in silos. We hear that term a lot, but they kind of do their own thing normally. Right. Well, now we're realizing how much they need each other. So I've been consulting with 5 different nonprofits after I went to the Anchor Church training. Yay there.
Yay, Anchor Church.
And I got training in guiding principles. So I've been working with these 5 nonprofits to rewrite their core values and mission and vision. And what you start to see are the overlaps.
Right.
And so now I'm connected with all of them. They're all working together in this beautiful way. Mm-hmm. And no longer is it, this guy's trying to solve everything. This guy, no, everybody's kind of just working together to really make a difference. And our folks experiencing homelessness are feeling loved right now. And that to me that's God. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And it's certainly something we all need in times like this. This is, we all need a sense of connection and a sense of love and care. And especially when everybody is kind of so inwardly focused right now, because you're kind of having to be to protect yourself and the people around you. It's nice that they're not forgotten in the midst.
And that's something that I'm glad you just said that. It was easy for people in my congregation. They were really worried, oh, Pastor Vicky's not taking care of herself. They thought I was putting myself in risk by being on the front line throughout all this. Right. Super supportive. They were giving and giving and giving, but everybody had this trepidation that, mm-hmm. oh no. And I had one doctor friend who said to me, you're not the one at risk. You are the risk. And so he put me up with all of these nutrition supplements so that when I was going to serve people in the vulnerable population, I wouldn't get them sick.
Right.
And it was such a good, for me, it was a good changing of perspective when I realized that, because I became much more cautious. And when somebody would come in for a hug, I would be much more guarded to make sure that I wasn't hurting them.
Well, that's the misnomer about mask wearing too, that people seem to forget, that it's not wearing the mask unless you have an N95 that's sealed on your face. It doesn't protect you. It protects everybody around you from you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's most of us don't think in those terms. I don't think so.
I totally agree. So it really helped change that perspective. And one of the other just beautiful organic things, I watch these individuals who, so often our homeless population they don't get a name. They become lumped as the homeless. And really what I've learned throughout all this work over the past several years is these are just people who are experiencing homelessness, right? So in the last 8 weeks alone, we've gotten 3 people full-time jobs. And to watch how and it was a matter of, one guy needed knee pads so he could kneel to lay tile.
Sure.
Having those knee pads got him a full-time job. It was $12, like those little things. We have another gentleman who's deaf, and he was really having a hard time communicating with us. So we were able to find an app that I could speak into the app and turn it, and it would sign to him. He could sign into it, and it would speak to me. And those little things, all it took was recognizing this guy deserved the same dignity as the guy next to him, and doing a little bit of extra research that happened.
But
right?
it's about connecting with relationships and knowing people well enough to know what the barrier is between them and whatever it is they're trying to get to,
Oh,
and making those connections, which ultimately is about how we're living out the gospel. And and ultimately, it's all supposed to be relational anyway, right? So that's, whether it's working in a homeless population or a youth ministry or an aging population, it's all about connecting with individuals and creating relationships.
100%. And one of the most beautiful moments I think we've had here at Zion in the last 8 weeks, there's a man named Chakis, and he's this beautiful man that just loves Jesus. So every time I see him, he wants a Bible or he wants to talk to me about something he's read, and he's just great. So he called me on a Saturday and he said, Vicky, when is the next service? And I was like, well, we're not really in person, but we have this drive-in service,
Yeah.
which because I know he's living on the street, so I know he didn't have a car. And I said, but it's at 10:10 on Sunday if you want to come. And I'm setting up for the drive, and I look up, and here comes Chakis walking down the driveway. And I was so excited, so I tossed him my car keys, and he's like, I'm not starting your car. Like, I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. I said, all right. So I start my car, and I get him all set up, and he listens to the host service. And we have this, I guess it's like a mailbox that's set up where people can put offerings.
Yeah.
And at the end of the service, I watched this man get out of my car and get in line behind all the cars and walk up and drop his last $2 in that
Wow.
offering. And
That's
to me,
beautiful.
that just was this spirit-driven moment of saying, like, he got it.
Yeah.
He got it.
Yeah.
It was just gorgeous. And all those people there with him saw that, right? And they got it too.
Yep.
It was an act of love. So those moments just keep happening. It's just been so organic, and I could go on and on about what a blessing.
So, and then like my closing question people always is where do you find joy in these days? But I don't know if I need to ask it because you've already told your stories, unless you've got some beautiful nugget to share with us, Vicky.
I just love doing what I get to do. And it's not that I don't like planning worship and I don't like doing the other things, but when you get to live the gospel and you get to actually watch faith in action, I think there's something so beautiful. So I'm a firm believer that when you learn how to love yourself, you can receive God's love differently. And then you can go and be God's love in the world. And throughout the last 8 weeks, whether I've been working with our international partners or our local partners, I've just really experienced love on a level that I've known, but I've allowed myself to receive as much as I've given. And I think that's where true joy comes from.
That's
So
beautiful. Well, thank you, Pastor. Thank you for your time. It's great visiting with you. Thank you for your ministry. Give thanks to God for all you do and the way you live out and embody and proclaim the gospel.
Well,
Peace be with you.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.